Hey, Deidre. We're,
Brenley.
we're here. We're doing it again.
Yes, so great to be here with all these lovely people from around the world. Good to see you all, day of security.
Woo, so excited to see you.
Me too. I really want to start by thanking you, Brenley. I haven't told you that I was going to do this as a bit of a surprise, everybody. But Day of Security is co-founded by Lookout and CyberSN, where Brenley and I are employed, and we've been working together now for many, many years. And I love working with you. In particular, I want everybody to know that we're having this event because of Brenley, in that we decided to move the digital event to end of March so we can make it in person and digital again. Finally, after 2 years, we can be back in person. And now we have this great thing, right? But you said, okay, happy to do that. But there's a lot of people unemployed right now who really need our help. And we're coming to find employment and help with their job search. And you said, let's do something to help them. And so here we are. So thank you.
Absolutely, Deidre. Day of Security is based on women helping women. And that takes many different formats, right? We help each other celebrate successes. We're there for each other when times are tough. And we want this couple of hours to be about you, how we can best support you. So Deidre and I are going to be walking through some tips and tricks that we've learned along the 10 plus years we've been recruiting, 30 plus years. And we're excited that you're here today.
Yeah, no doubt. You made this happen, so thank you. And let's dive into it, everybody. So there's a lot of advice we have, as Brenley said. Collectively, we're 60 years in and if you're new to cyber versus have some experience or lots of experience in cyber, there's some information that we want to specifically give to each, and yet there's an overlap too. So, stay with us. We're going to spend an hour with you, and then we want you to go spend time with Google and Lookout and Autodesk and CyberSN, who are here. Certainly Google, Lookout, and Autodesk have open positions. CyberSN is here to support you overall as a staffing agency. So we're going to talk for an hour, and then you're going to go mingle with those people to help you. We are in chat. We can see chat. We have people helping us with chat too. So feel free to put something in there. But we have lots of slides, lots of content, lots of discussion. Like, this is literally the formula. So let's do it, Brenley. I'm going to click my next slide. So we're going to start with new to cyber, right?
Yes. So if you are attending and you're new to cybersecurity, a couple examples. Let's say you're new to the workforce and you've taken classes in cybersecurity and you're interested in getting into the field, or perhaps this is a pivot for you. You've been in another area and you'd like to get into cybersecurity. So starting out, know what role you want. We're going to talk to you in a few minutes about how to understand what the roles are in cybersecurity, and CyberSN has done a fantastic job at providing a platform for you guys to understand what opportunities exist, what type of roles. Get involved with project work. We're going to go over details around that and how you can do things, even though you might not be in a role right now, or you might be in a period of transition. We'll talk about networking a ton and what that looks like. Be interested and interesting in interviews. And we'll give you some tips about how to ensure that not only you're interested in the information you're hearing, but how do you show up as interesting to the interview team that you're meeting with. Always follow up and be aggressive. We'll talk about that. Sometimes that's a forgotten thing, and people often ask me, should we be doing follow-up emails? And then finally, be ready to discuss salary. And we'll give you some salary tips on how to have those discussions. So this is just a baseline of content that we'll cover. There's going to be a lot more interactive pieces that we'll provide to you. And Deidre, why don't we go to understanding the opportunities?
Yeah. Well said. So let's start here, because it's the number one thing I hear about from hiring managers when they're interviewing new to cyber, is that if that person doesn't know what they want to do, Brenley, and they don't end up hiring them. I've seen the best intended people interviewing new to cyber and coming out saying, yeah, they just didn't really feel like they wanted this job.
Yeah.
And then talking to all the people trying to help them getting into cyber, they're going into classes where they're learning a little bit of all the categories as I have up here on the screen. And so I feel for them. I feel for the hiring manager. I would want that too as a hiring manager, to know that somebody really wants the job. So now that we know this, that's why I made this career center front and center free. You don't even need to give me your email. There's 10 categories, 45 functional roles today in cybersecurity. We update this yearly. Inside of each one of these functional roles, there's all kinds of data for you all. It really behooves us to study and think about the day in a life of these jobs, these careers, and look at the career mapping section in each of them, because you can see where one role feeds to another role, feeds to another role in all of this. And pick what you want to do, because people want to know that you're interested in the job they have, that it's going to keep you engaged, right, Brenley, no matter what level. But certainly this level is struggling with that.
Yeah. And one thing that's nice is I think you'll be surprised at all the various roles. You don't necessarily need to come from a development background or a compliance background. You know, there are iterations of different roles, especially in larger companies. So there really are a lot of opportunities. I would highly encourage you to take time on this site to really explore what you're doing now, what you'd like to be doing, and where the bridge is. Because Deidre is right. When you go in for a discussion with a hiring manager or recruiter, it's kind of like dating, right? They want to know that they're the only one. When you go out to meet with them, right? That you are exclusive to them, that no other company matters. Because every employer understands that you are highly coveted, that you are not only interested in us, but maybe with other people. So as an employer, you want to make us feel special. We're the only one. So by doing your homework, going to Deidre's site, understanding the different roles, knowing what you want is really important.
Yeah, it's an interesting analogy, the dating analogy. Certainly want the date to be fun. You know, like I want to do a lot of dates as long as they're all fun, I'm okay. But I will also add to this that you made a great point in that there are roles that are not technical. There's sales here, as you can see, is one of the 10 categories. Marketing is an addition that we're adding in the 2023 update. I'm already skipping a year. It's really important to recognize the ecosystem. We can't, sales, marketing, and as you see here, the other sort of maybe more traditional cyber roles. Really, what I've realized over the years is that we're just an ecosystem supporting each other. And so we all have to be here. So know that for those of you, even if you're technical, there's plenty of technical people in sales roles that love being in the sales roles.
Yeah, absolutely.
So really do your research. Yeah.
It's true. When I used to work at Symantec, it was a really big organization and there are lots of different opportunities. And I would have be present for some university hiring, and the new college grads would come out and they would say, I have no idea what I want to do. And I said, terrific. That's great. You shouldn't know what you want to do yet. Go into a large company. It doesn't matter what role. Figure out what's of interest to you. And in cybersecurity, that can be the same, right? You have so many different opportunities open to you. If you're still not sure which one of these opportunities makes sense, you could go with a security organization, right? Where they develop security products like Lookout, or companies like Symantec that sell the products, and you can make your way through, right? You think of this as a journey, not just this is your only job you'll have in your career.
That's right. That's right. That's why the career pathing is so important, and it's certainly accessible for everybody. So enjoy that. So number 2 advice you had, Brenley, is get involved in project-based work. This is what I've seen so many people get hired from being a part of these types of opportunities. I can't say, enough other than that. Like it's all about being found and getting an opportunity to show that you're interested and that you're willing to engage the community. People like that, right?
They do. They do. And you know what? Everyone has been in all of our situations, quite honestly. We've all been looking to network. We've all been looking to make friends, make connections. And what Deidre and I will be sharing with you is just how do you go about doing that? Where do you go? What's specific to cybersecurity? And also, how can you be brave and take that first step and reaching out to individuals you don't know? We're providing you with opportunities where at least you're in the environment with people of same interests, which will be helpful.
That's right. And people love helping people they know. So versus being a digital resume in some system. I will say that SANS Hackathon just got published, I think today or yesterday. And that is a great CTF to get involved in. It's literally from beginners to experience. So check it out, everybody. It's free. It's SANS Holiday Hack, I believe is what it's called. And it's lovely. I know that our chief security officer brings it internally and we participate.
Fun.
No, I feel really smart when I do it. And it's super fun. All right, moving on to the next topic is of networking, which, the project-based stuff is networking in one way because you're working together. This is, I put resources. I know we've got people all over the world here, but I wanted to illustrate how just in one city, the Bay Area, where there's this much going on a regular basis of meetups. And I know these organizations are doing that in all areas in the US, and many of them are international. So get your hands on this slide, everybody, and participate with all of these groups. They're all out there working to support new to cyber in many different ways.
Yes. And what a quick tip is that we will be sending out a recording after this event. So you'll be able to go back and review these slides because I know there's a lot of information. But this is a list that you can just poke around and start to meet individuals. What will be nice is those connections that you make. You have LinkedIn. You can go back and follow up with those individuals and perhaps build a bridge around topics of conversation that you learned within the different events that you go to. So I'd really encourage you to take a step and join some of these groups. They're free. They happen all the time. They're national. Some of them are global. And it's really a great way to get your name out there.
That's right. That's right. And pay it forward, right? Like, that's what we're all doing. That's what we're here for. So thankful that people helped me in particular. I want to help other women without a doubt, and underrepresented genders. So this is another networking list for everybody. It has a bit more here than just supporting gender. And so also get your hands on this as well. And everybody's got free offerings, which is why it's so important. All right, so let's move on to this, Brenley. This is a biggie. This is like, okay, we get through all the noise of even just talking to somebody. Now we're talking to them, and it's so stressful. So I want to spend some time here. There's a lot of angst here and what have you. So let's dive into the importance of the researching of companies and who you're meeting, right? Like this is
exactly. So in order to be interested, you have to be informed, right? You have to do your homework and understand what's the company about, right? What is the department about? What's the organization about? Really do your homework. Crunchbase is a wonderful place to go where you will find public companies, pre-IPO companies. You'll start to learn more about what round of funding they're at, understand more about their board. I'd really recommend that even though you are interviewing for a specific role in a larger company, being interested and being interesting by being informed is really important to do your homework. There is nothing more difficult than sitting in an interview, spending 20, 30 minutes with somebody, asking them, what questions do you have for me? And having them say no questions. Or number two, asking them what they understand about the company and have them say nothing when they applied for the position, right? It's different if we reach out cold call, but if you applied for the role, it's so easy to go out and learn about the business. Would you agree, Deidre?
Yeah, that person that has no questions or doesn't know anything about the company that applied is not going to get hired, bottom line. So I tell people all the time, like, look, we know it's exhausting. We know that it's almost like being, 24/7 on interviews when you're job searching, and people show up not interested in you and not interesting to you, the interviewee, probably a lot.
Yes.
And so it's discouraging. And so what I say is, you just don't know who's going to show up on that other side. You don't know how connected they are. You don't know how willing they are to be helpful. So you got to show up with your game all the time, whether whether you think you're super interested in the opportunity or not, because you really don't know who knows who and who's going to show up and what's possible when you come prepared and interested and interesting. So it's so important that you won't get hired. And more important, just as important, is that you'll miss out on opportunities because the mindset wasn't there to really engage.
Yeah. And think of the conversation as just one of many. If you're meeting with a recruiter, right, you now have a connection and you connect with them on LinkedIn to a recruiter that probably has a lot of connections, right? And so you want to make sure you've had that great experience with the recruiter. So if you do see another great job and you see that that recruiter knows a recruiter at that company, what a wonderful way to build that bridge and have those conversations to do an introduction. Right. And so you want to be prepared when you go in, understand the company, understand the individuals that you'll be meeting with, right? Look at their backgrounds on LinkedIn. If it's a technical role, go see if they've done some work on GitHub, see if they've been published, etc. But at the bare bone minimum, we want you to make sure you're really strong in answering the following 4 questions. Like, what do you want to do?
That's right. So the first part you're talking about is make a connection, show that you're interested, show that you're there, like be engaging. And then it's okay, well, how are you going to answer these questions that are always asked in some form, and they're esoteric, if you will. And so that, stresses people out. It's not yes or no, or, ooh, I've got the technical answer or the script for the code or what have you. Yeah. So I encourage people to practice answering this question. Write your answers down to all these questions. Read them to yourself. Read them out loud. Do you like the way it sounds? Is this the message you want to portray? Knowing that we're giving you the advice of know what you want to do. Yeah. And so I think what you want to do, isn't about a 5-year plan necessarily. No. I hope that question's not being asked, and yet maybe it is, but certainly know what you want to do from the perspective of how it pertains to why you're talking to them in that position, and how you're going to sell yourself about that position as how it fits into your strategy of development and career development. And and you got to practice that. So for instance, Brenley, let's do a little role playing, right?
Yes.
Ask me some of these traditional questions. And if I'm interviewing for a new to cyber role, and I'm talking to the head of security, I know it's something about security operations. I don't know anything other than it's a SOC opportunity and a list of things here that I'm supposed to know, but I don't. Yeah. Because that's a typical job description. So let's do a little role playing.
Terrific. So Deidre, thank you for talking with me today. I looked at your background and I appreciate you applying for the role. Tell me, what do you want to do?
I'm so glad you asked that. And thank you for your time today. I spent some time looking at your job description and doing some research on you and the organization. From what I can gather on the job description, and I'd love to hear more from you about the job. What I gather is you're running a security operations center, and you've got lots of tools and work that you need in optimization and eyes on data and vulnerabilities and all those things. And I'm interested in security operations. So can you tell me more about the need that you're looking to hire for, what you actually need done?
Well, that's great, Deidre. I'm glad that you took the time to learn about, the company, the position, what we're looking to do. I'm down 3 positions. It's actually due to growth in the business, and I'm really looking for an individual that can learn and grow in positions. We have a lot of playbooks that individuals can be trained on, but I'm curious, why this role? Why a SOC role for you?
Well, it's not just the sock role. You are in the healthcare business, and I'm very interested in giving back to society. I feel like the business of healthcare is attached to the self-care of humans, and I really just love your mission of healthcare and providing for the population that you provide for, the underserved. And so I'm super
Oh,
interested in that.
great.
And so, if I can pick where I'm going to help securing, I want to
Yeah.
pick somewhere that inspires me.
Oh, fantastic. That was actually the reason I joined the organization 39 years ago, is that I really felt that cause. It was really near and dear to my heart. So tell me more. Tell me more about yourself.
That's awesome. I am very motivated to secure organizations so that we can all live a better quality of life. And I was inspired to get into security because of, and I'm going to stop here, everybody, and we're going to move on. But you can see that I had to have done research, and kind of easy to choose healthcare and what I chose. But at the end of the day, you got to find something interesting about that company, or something that you really like about that company and what they're doing and what their mission is. Or don't don't interview there, because
Yeah.
you got to make that connection. I mean, these managers in these companies, they have visions, they have purposes, they have meaning. And so that's what we mean by research. And you can see it real time. And look how Brenley, of course, she's there for that same reason. It's their
Yeah.
mission, their vision, and every company has one. So
Yeah.
that's an example. And we hope you enjoyed that. And we impromptu that too. So
I would hire you in a moment. Yeah. Yeah. Deidre, one other thing to add. You need to remember, and this is almost a must, that companies want to talk to you, right? You're in a good place. You do not need to be on your heels. You do not need to walk in there and ask God, do they like me? The answer is yes. They picked up the phone because they want to learn more about you. And think about every interview that you go on. Can you imagine a different place where someone wants to learn about you for an hour? And after you get practice interview after interview, it's going to be pretty cool that people really want to learn about you. And as you could see, Deidre and I are kind of bringing a lightness to this, as it can be a light discussion. Remember, they want to figure out, number one, do you have the skills? But more importantly, can they work with you? Are you coming across as approachable? Are you coming across as open? Are you creative? Are you asking questions? Do you seem like you're inspired by this type of work? Are you coming across as interesting? If the answer to that is yes, remember that they want to hire. That is their goal. They are not looking for a reason to rule you out. The opposite. They want an opportunity to rule you in. So don't be on your heels.
It's such a great point to make, because people are so frustrated with the broken system that we
Yeah.
live in, meaning all these applicant tracking systems and SEO and resumes and job descriptions. And we'll talk about it more later. So here, Brenley, that even though that's happening, it could be easy to get down about it. The reality is there are plenty of people looking, and security is starting to invest more and more in succession planning and training. And so it's getting better. And yet we know it's hard. And yet there's a lot of people out there looking. And that doesn't make
So
any
true.
sense.
Very true.
Let's talk about money, Brenley, because I think
Yeah.
this is the last thing that can trip people up a lot. It's changed a lot over the years since you and I have been in the business. There's now laws about, salary information and sharing. And I specifically used the word salary here because I think it's one of the reasons why it makes things so difficult for people in employment searching, in that it's only one piece of total compensation. And yet typically the recruiters are really focusing on that salary piece before they'll pass people on. And because of course it's a waste of time if it's not within the salary cap, and yet nobody wants to give the salary cap because then somebody's going to be thinking that's the expectation.
Yep.
And then now we have the Equal Pay Act. And so there's just a lot more transparency, and yet it's still, a hard conversation to have. And so I want to say this, and then I want to hear what you think.
Yeah.
Too, which is that for me, it's a total compensation conversation, and that people need to be patient with themselves to hold the space to actually be in this conversation and not be so nervous that they're giving a number or not giving a number, versus having a conversation with the recruiter or whoever about, well, that's a great question. I'd love to hear about total compensation and what the salary band is, so that I can make a decision, is the way I'd like to handle it, and think that if that turns anybody off, then who cares?
That's exactly right. Deidre, perfect point. Salary discussions are tough. I've been leading recruiting teams for almost 30 years, and it's just not easy for either side. Yeah. The best way to situate yourself is to be transparent, be honest, right? No one wants to play games on either side. It's very difficult if individuals go into a role with a specific number in mind, because to Deidre's point, companies have total compensation that is broken down into many different components. Pre-IPO companies tend to offer potentially less in base, but they have bigger equity, right? So you have a longer term opportunity than just the base salary. Some offer base and bonus, right? And the base and bonus piece could be based on how well the company's doing, how well you're doing. Some companies offer really rigid structures, salary bands, especially union environments, right? Where they really only have a very specific budget. But there's also rich benefits that companies offer. There's also other perks about working remote or having the opportunity to work at an office. And so all of those things you should factor in and just be really honest. So when you're asked, hey, Deidre, what are you looking for in total comp, or what are you looking for in a salary? Say, that's a really great question. You know that the salary piece will have a lot of various components to it. Be comfortable about giving a range if you know what your range is, right? Because the nice thing about the Pay Transparency Act that's coming up is that companies are going to be posting salary ranges. They're going to be pretty wide. Each company is going to have a budgeted amount that they're going to be able to work around, and also internal equity that they have to think about. How much is the parity of my staff making from each other? So what I really recommend is, when you're asked about salary, don't be concerned about having an open discussion. The nice thing about pay transparency is that the ownership is on the companies to really back how much they're paying. And it really does narrow the gap, because if you are making $52,000 at a job and now the new company for the same job is paying $75,000, that will be in the range, and that's perfectly acceptable. So don't be afraid about asking for the range. Don't be afraid of asking about what other components there are to the total compensation. And if you're truly not ready to have that conversation, caveat that with, I'd like to know the bigger picture, but I'm happy to stay open and continue to have dialogues with you along the way. And that's fair too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. I'm here, I know nowadays too, time off is in that package that people want, that's worth money to people.
Yeah.
How many holidays does the organization, what are your benefits? I mean, let's not ask about the holidays in the interview. However, let's ask about time off. Let's just not
Yeah.
talk about the holidays. And so it just goes to show, like, there's so many pieces. And so, to your point of posting salaries, we have about 140,000 jobs posted at CyberSN for experienced professionals. Those jobs represent all jobs sort of posted in the last 45 days in the US, and a third of them have salary. So there's a
Oh,
third of the market is putting salary bands, and the states that are legally doing it now, of course, there's more in those states as people are complying, but it's going to help a lot when everybody
yeah.
complies. It's one of the things that wastes the most time in recruiting, as you know, Brenley, is like getting to like, everybody likes each other, but the money's way off.
Yeah. For
Principle.
sure, for sure. And, with the Pay Transparency Act that's happening the 1st of January for companies like in California, if you're posting a position and open to someone residing in California, then you have to post the salary range. Now, with that, companies are still figuring out how to do that, right? And so if you are in California, you're applying for a California role, let's say in San Jose, the position doesn't have the salary range on it, I would highly recommend that you don't say, I see you forgot to post the salary range. What is it? Right? Instead, you could say, could you give me a sense of the range for the role? And that is fair, right?
Yeah.
And you could even caveat it by saying, I understand it is based on a lot of different factors, but that would be helpful for me in making the right choice.
That's right. That's right. And to include knowing the full job and what it is, it's not fair to ask somebody to confirm salary when you don't really know what the job is. And so you could say, and I'd also just really like to get a good understanding of the job. Now, look, you're new to cyber. You're thinking, yeah, right. I'm not doing all this shit. I'm scared. I want in. Let me in. Tell me what, I get it. I get it. And you can have that hurry up and wait at one time. You're gonna get in. We're not saying turn people off. We're saying ask them to help you and say, gosh, I've been thinking a lot about this. I've done a lot of research. I've looked at a lot of data. I'm new to the industry. The best thing that I've learned is that there's a lot to salary. It's more compensation. And I'd love to learn about your compensation package, hear what salary band you are. Of course, I'm looking for the best opportunity. I'm talking to lots of organizations. I'd love to know more about what you have to offer. Can you share more? That's what we're talking about. That's the application view of it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to this last piece of advice we have. Although both new to cyber and cyber experience, we have, it overlaps. We're going to move on to the next set of goodness, can't even speak. Next set of advice. But let's wrap here of this: always follow up and be persistent, Brenley. Like I need people following up with me. I need to know how they're feeling. This is a lot of feeling in this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember thank you notes, and I actually forward them on to the hiring manager, and I copy a bunch of people, and I will say, nice touch, right? They are absolutely read. I can guarantee it. Yes. And with the hiring manager, you will be sending thank you notes out to everyone that you speak to, right? In that thank you note, you want to, and it could be 3 sentences. It doesn't matter. It's the act of doing it that is really classy. And in that thank you note, see if you can remember something that was said during the interview that you could tie into the thank you note. It really gives a nice touch in showing that you're engaged and you remember the conversation.
That's right. That's right. And if you can make it, something that you can help them with, that's even better. Like, you heard something, you're thinking about the conversation you had with that person. You're like, I could do this, or I have this idea. Yes, you put that in the letter. And I love it when I'm hiring a direct report and their thank you letter has an idea for me of how they can help and I just think that's wonderful. That's thinking. I want that they're thinking about this in that way.
Yeah.
I want to also say the reach out daily thing, I appreciate persistence. I love persistence. It helps me, again, prioritize who's most interested. Is not that I'm asking for that. We've got so much going on that it's helpful to people to keep them on the mind of the recruiter, right?
It is because once again, you need to advocate for yourself, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of noise out there. When a recruiter has a role open, I guarantee you they could have 20 other positions open. There's generally 10 candidates that they're considering per position, 5 that are in the interview process. And if you look at that as multipliers, there's a lot of names and a lot of people you have to keep track of. The ones that graciously continue to send me inquiries and updates, I welcome that, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm also the teams are very transparent. If
Yeah.
they don't know, they really don't know. If they have gone dark on you, right? There is nothing wrong with sending a follow up, just saying, I'll wait to hear back from you. I'm guessing you're really busy. If I don't hear back in the next week, I'll assume you went a different direction, just something very nice.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
to reach out to push a decision, or some individuals use the tactic of, I have another offer. Just be thoughtful about that. Always tell the truth, right? I can't tell you how many people have had other offers that the business wants to hire. So
Yeah.
they will be going as quickly as they can, but we'll go over how it's not a perfect process at all.
Yeah, yeah. Instead of I've got an offer, I've got offers coming,
Yes.
that's a better,
It already makes me sweat, Deidre, hearing that because it's
yeah,
true.
I
It
know.
stresses us out, right?
I know. And to this persistence piece, I want to share something real quickly. At our level, it's happens to even us where somebody left a phone call where they were really happy that we talked and can't wait to follow up. And I follow up and I follow up. And every once in a while, nothing comes back. It's not
Yeah.
right. Every once in a while, nothing comes back. And then I start getting in my own head every once in a while. And then sure as hell, 6 months later, that person's like, hey, let's pick up where we left off. I'm like, oh my God, I sent you 4, messages. And so let's not be unkind to ourselves and take things personally.
Yeah. Good
And
point.
it really is not typically that. That being said, if it is, well, who cares? You don't want to talk to them anyway.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
All right, so let's move in and add some of the pieces to an experienced job search, Brenley. There's
Yeah.
extra things here. I'm just going to move on from the overall slide to say some overlap, but and also some new things, particularly. Well, they apply to everybody, but the
Yeah.
new to cyber people certainly are saying to themselves as much as the people with experience, what the hell, how are there, 500,000 open jobs, a million open jobs,
Right.
whatever it is. And,
Right.
I have 20 interviews and I can't even find a fit. And oh my gosh, like how is it new to cyber? I have to have a CISSP and so, we want to make sure that everybody understands that you're working and operating within a broken system. In fact, Brenley and I both came from the business before the digital era when
Yep.
it was a fax machine and a phone, and that's all we had. And when that time existed, it was very expensive to post a job ad. In fact, it was $5,000 in the Sunday paper, and you got a paragraph
Yeah.
to write with. And so what has happened is that an ad now costs a couple $100. It's free, whatever it is, it's cheap. And so these job descriptions are cut and paste of so much content, pages and pages. And so the paragraph went away and the content, being good content. And then, of course, a world economy matching, jobs to people in all kinds of places now remote. And so it's worse than it's ever been. So we're going to dive into that. I already touched on the job descriptions. You got SEO, right? So all of this is really causing so many people in cybersecurity to think, gosh, what's wrong with me? How come I can't find what I'm looking for? the folks behind my platform who's actually our product owner today. He was a security engineer when he joined us 6 years ago. This was, we do a talk together a lot about this imposter syndrome that he even got because of this whole broken, yucky system. And some internal HR practices are great. Most aren't. Having salary data that's reliable is super hard for organizations, because I can tell you, we see it change every quarter. Especially, recruiters don't speak cybersecurity. Well, how could they all, like, what? That's so hard to speak cybersecurity and everything else. So you've got this huge mess of stuff that makes people think there's something wrong, there's not enough with me, or how could there really be jobs out there? And so we just want you to know that it's not you. You are working in a broken system, and you need to empower yourself. I call it pwn your career, and know all of this so that you show up prepared for what you need to do to navigate this poor system, whether you're new to cyber or not. And I think it starts first with job descriptions, Brenley.
Yeah, it does. And Deidre, you bring up a lot of really good points. One thing that I can share with you from the corporate side is, number one, the recruiters are always looking for wonderful talent. They're looking for individuals that engage. They are knowing that there was a slide that said, a point that said, apply for jobs anyway. Companies don't post all open positions. Sometimes a manager knows that they have a new project and they'll need to grow it by a certain number of staff, and they're working their way through finance to get approvals for that. And so you would want to have your background in with that organization when that opportunity does come up, because recruiters on the back end, they do go through exercises to be able to readily get to the candidates that would be strong for roles that are new. Additionally, it is really important for you to build those relationships, right? As Deidre mentioned, if you have a conversation with a recruiter and it doesn't work out right now, rest assured that there might be opportunities in the future, and think about that activity as a networking opportunity, right? And so if not now, it could be beneficial over the long run.
That's right. That's right. Recruiters are going to pipeline. If they're committed to their organization, they're going to think of you, put you in a pipeline, or put you in a place where they're going to remember you. So yeah, apply, because I've put a lot of heart and soul into, creating a job building technology so that we can get out of this mess. I can't click into this like I would like to because of just the platform. But if you go to cybersn.com, just look at jobs. This is what I mean by figure out the job. While you're talking to people, figure out the percentage of time. This is an IAM engineer. It's hard to see what they're doing 60% of their time and 20% of their time and what have you. But if you click into our jobs, I want you to go figure this out while you're talking to people, because most likely you're looking at a job description that's actually a persona of the human they think they want to hire, not what the job entails in terms of projects and tasks that they need completed. So you have to do that. You have to help create that so that, one, you can make sure you want this job, right? So many people take jobs and then find out afterwards it's not the job they thought it was, and that it's a total bummer. It happens, to somebody once, maybe twice. It never happens again. So I don't want it to even happen to you once or twice. Like, it's a terrible thing. So
yeah. And Deidre, if I could add, it's a really good point. In about 15 minutes, you'll have an opportunity to speak with recruiters that go through these conversations all the time. If you want to understand better if it's the right role for you, you'll have to get really strong on the questions you ask. Like, what would success look like in 6 months? How would you know that I've arrived? Like, what am I tasked to do? How will you measure it? Like, what keeps you up at night as a hiring manager, right? You'll start to get really creative about some of those questions so that you can really figure out the fit. As you're doing that, you're being really attuned to, how do you get along with this person? Do you like this person? I can guarantee you that people may come for a logo, but they stay for the boss. And if you are getting good vibes on this boss, I would say if you're getting bad vibes, it's not going to get better, right? You're not going to take a job for the money, although it's a shiny penny. You want to make sure that this is a person that you'll want to work with. So just another important tidbit.
Yeah. Yeah. You decide who hires you is how I'd like people thinking. I'd like people to say, I'm interviewing, and yes, I must put on a good presentation of a person that they'd want to spend time with. And at the same time, I must decide, do I want to spend that same amount of time with those people doing what job?
Yeah.
What's job? You've got to be able to see it, which is why those job descriptions, I'm committed to changing them for the world. All right, let's move on to this concept we talked a little bit earlier, but I want to go deeper, Brenley. When you have experience in cybersecurity, there's even more of an expectation that the interviews are longer, more of them, more people, lots of grilling.
Yes.
So what do we want to say about, if you have experience, what it means to be prepared versus?
I would, and please, I would highly recommend you going and speaking with all of the recruiters that are here today, because they'll give you all real life examples. But I would highly, highly recommend, if anything you take away from this conversation, you are going to spend time in building your network. It is really important that you get really comfortable with LinkedIn and figuring out who's connected with whom. If people open up their connections to you, it's really important that you understand, especially for the seasoned individuals, a lot of hires are made through employee referrals or through warm leads. I would say on average, 42% of companies hire through employee referrals. So the networking piece is really, really important. And think of yourself as like a librarian. You are just researching and researching. I know people that keep spreadsheets about who's connected with whom. It's really important that you have that because individuals that are more experienced in their career, responding to job ads, it is much better and faster if you could go through people that are connected to other people.
Yeah. And when I'm preparing senior people, I always tell them, or people with experience, go see who you're already connected with, that may be connected to the person that you're about to meet.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And use that networking, brand that you've created to help yourself in these interviews. It will really help. I mean, I would love to get somebody that I really respect reaching out. Hey, I hear you're going to talk to so-and-so. I love that person's, I worked with them in, this time and loved it. So super important. All right, let's talk about, wow, we're moving along. So we'll have some time to take some questions from chat. So everybody listening, we're going to start taking some questions in just a few minutes here. I saw some in the posts. With the follow-up, for those with experience, I separated this just because I was thinking to myself, it's so hard for the people with experience to figure out the fit or not, and for organizations to figure out, meaning there's like 5 decision makers nowadays, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So are we saying that I meet with 5 people, they're all senior, I write thank you letters to all of them, I offer ideas to all of them, I'm aggressively following up, I'm being persistent, with everybody? Is that what we're saying to the people that are interviewing with the 5, let's say 5 senior people?
No, with the 5 senior people, it's a thoughtful feedback, like, great to meet you. It is figuring out where the threads of connection can be. You want, storytelling is always great. You want those individuals to come away with an understanding of you, your interest level, because they are advocates as well. Managers really do think about, how will this person fit into the team? Mm-hmm. If the team is advocating on your behalf, even more important than any other stamp of approval, right? Because the team has to work with this individual.
Right.
I would highly recommend that if you have experience, if you can get yourself, I wouldn't say published, but get yourself writing responses in public environments, get yourself out in speaking engagements, right? Get your name out there more. The very low hanging fruit is build up your LinkedIn network. You should have at least 500 connections, right? To know that you're actively getting yourself out there. So with senior level folks looking for opportunities, Deidre is correct. The networking is really important. And Deidre, not to plug your organization, but I'm going to because I've worked with your team, also working with a headhunter, also working with a agency that will represent you, because oftentimes managers don't have the time in order to find the right talent, or we might not be ready to go to market that we have an opening. And Deidre's network is 4x what my network is because she has a team of recruiters. So you do want to align yourself with really good partners like Deidre's organization, because companies still use those partners and see them as part of their strategic advantage.
Yeah. Yeah. It's having your own agent.
Yeah.
It is lovely. And it's all a product of the broken system. If we could easily, search and match to jobs, we wouldn't need all this support, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And until then, we're here doing the age old, no, you're going to see this person. What do you mean? They have X, Y, and Z. You can't judge a resume,
Exactly.
Still happening. It's like 30 years, nothing's changed, time warp.
Yep.
And yet, great advice. And so on the thank you letters, what I heard, Brenley, is give your ideas and stuff to the hiring managers, send thank you letters to everybody else. It's not about really sharing your ideas with the people that you wouldn't directly report to. Keep it streamlined to the direct manager and thank everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we take a couple of questions? There's a really good question about what should you do if you're already an engineer but have taken a year or two off for life reasons. And I have never seen a work environment that has been more flexible than I've seen in the last 5 years. It used to be, when Deidre and I were starting out 71 years ago, that you had to have these career advancements that literally you had a week off and then you took your next job. And if you had a gap between two roles, the hiring manager was convinced you're in prison. Right? It's not like that anymore, right? When we look at people's backgrounds, we're not expecting cradle to grave. We're not expecting you've been in a role for 20 years, right? We're used to individuals having life situations where they have to take out 2 years to be away, take care of family, take care of friends, take care of their own mental health. And that's nothing to be ashamed of. You don't need to be on your heels. There's actually agencies out there that have figured out that this is the next wave of how to get great talent, are those individuals that have taken time off. For example, there's a company called Moms Project, and all they do is reintroduce women back into the workforce that have taken 15-year gaps. So what I would say to you, the individual that has taken some time off for life reasons, terrific. You just need to have your story about what that's about and what you're comfortable in sharing. And you don't need to be on your heels. It happens all the time.
So well said. I'd add, put that story that Brenley's talking about really being in tune with on your resume. It doesn't have to be the details. Don't leave the reader to interpret that, oh, there's a gap and they didn't put anything there. So what are they trying to hide? Versus being, bold in that you have no issues sharing that you weren't working for the last 2 years. That would be the only thing I'd add. What else do we have, Brenley?
All right, I'm going to give another one. In what circumstances or timeframes would you consider asking for a referral from an acquaintance, like a hiring manager or a lead, who have not worked with you or have just spoken to you, maybe at a party or something like that? When do you use that connection?
Ooh la la.
La la.
Good question. Great question.
Yeah.
The first thing that comes to my mind, Brenley, is I've had to be extremely persistent in everything I do, and I tell people to do the same thing. So, that persistent can also mean people that we barely know in a
Right.
time where this is, job searching's broken, the economy's, hurting. It's even more important that people help each other. And so if anybody doesn't like it, then too bad. That
Yeah.
being said, I think your message should say, I know we really, haven't had time to really get to know each other. And yet, I'm really interested in building a career in cybersecurity, or I'm really interested in this company, and I see you're connected to so and so, and any advice you'd have for me would be lovely. Like, don't just say hook me up to these people. Ask
Yeah.
the advice or
It's perfect. It's perfect. This is really an EQ response. This is about coming across. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to say, hey, I'm in a job search right now. I see you're connected with so-and-so at Autodesk, and this is what I'm interested in, and I would love a connection, right? Would you be comfortable to an introduction? Because what goes around comes around. Karma has a long memory. And as Deidre started out by saying, people want to help. So please take, I would say, what circumstances or timeframes. I would say advocate for yourself and just reach out. The worst thing that could happen is the individual says they're not comfortable with it.
That's right. That's right. I mean, no isn't a bad thing. No doesn't even mean the conversation's over. No just means you're in a conversation. From a salesperson, I'd say, and even if they kind of said no, I might be a little bit more persistent, because we have this saying that says, if you're not willing to ask for what you want at least 3 times, then the person you're asking it from is really, already got so much on their plate that saying no is easy.
Yeah.
But persistence says they'll say yes if you go 3 times, but you can't just say the same thing over.
Right.
You got to spin it up. Listen, I understand we really don't have any experience together and everybody's so busy, but if I showed you this project, I'd like to show you this project. Would that make you more comfortable? Like, now the person's really saying no is a lot harder.
Yeah. It's very true. Very true. One more question I think we have time for. How do you make your resume stand out in the sea of applicants? And that's a really good question. One of the things that I used to guide folks on is, if you're applying for a position, right, and there's a job description, obviously the company is looking for that work to be done. The qualifications could be kind of all over the place, but there's a body of work that needs to be done. If you have experience with that body of work, put that in your background, right? Don't make it hard for a recruiter to guess that you have done it. If you have never done any work in the field, start to volunteer, go to a nonprofit, right? Start to mentor, buy somebody some cookies and say, hey, can I learn from you how you do A, B, and C, right? Try to get the experience, try to build some of that into your resume, and that really helps. That's a differentiator.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say to add to that would be, your resume needs to be as short as possible. People aren't reading long resumes. They don't have the time. So they're really looking at the top portion, and whatever you have to say there will stand out to them. Yeah. I get asked a lot, should I redo my resume to match the job description? And I'm a big believer of no, because now you're going to be making your resume match a job that they probably cut and pasted.
Version control, right? You've got to remember who you set what to, and then they'll look at LinkedIn and it won't be as consistent. So just be thoughtful on that.
Yeah, it's not necessary.
Yeah. Deidre, can you believe we're almost at the top of the hour? So one thing also to note, you have a bunch of people that have been a new network for you, these folks that have attended today. So network with each other, right? Use each other as a support system. Connect on LinkedIn. I would welcome all of you to connect on my LinkedIn profile. Visit the booths, right? Visit the sessions and really get to know the recruiters. and be okay asking vulnerable questions, like really like sticky questions that you've always been curious about and you really feel stuck. This is the safe place to do it.
Exactly. And if you're thinking it, most likely somebody else is thinking it, and these sessions are kind of open. So the more people engaging, the more it's going to help everybody else. So, please, no question is a bad question. And yes, please link in with me too. Super happy to help you all. This is going to cut off at exactly 60 minutes. And
all right. So one more thing to plug. We have a job board. Take
yes.
a look. We have curated positions that are open from our sponsors. As Deidre mentioned, there's hundreds of thousands of roles open right now. Yes, companies are hiring. I have recruiters coming at me, internal recruiters saying, hey, do you know of so-and-so? So lots of positions exist. And just, be your best advocate. Just be brave, be your best advocate, and you will find the great opportunity.
That's right. Thank you, Brenley. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Deidre. We'll see you at the next day of security or in our sessions in a few moments. Thank you, everybody.